Monday, yesterday dapat yung yung Halloween. Okay, but wait. Okay. Share muna natin yung live video natin. Okay. Okay, hold on. Good evening, everybody. Share na muna natin yung live video kasi tonight's gonna be a very special episode. We are gonna have our Halloween special for tonight. And I'm looking forward to hear your own stories as well. Kung meron kayong na-experience in the past, anything supernatural. So I can also shed light on these topics. It's a very sensitive topic, most especially for those who have direct experiences. But in this way, the reason why we are gonna have a lot of discussions about these, kasi syempre, there are many things that we should also understand about the supernatural. And primarily, para hindi tayo masyadong takot lang o hindi tayo basta ang iniisip natin is yung mga gantong bagay nakakatakot lang. And I will always say in anything and in everything, the more you know, the lesser you will fear. Okay. Ay, good evening. Ay, ayun na. Namaskaram, Chet. Nice to see you. Good evening. Ako baka may baon kang mga kababalaghan dyan. Namaskar, my son. Jeff, good evening. Listener. Oh, baka sinasabi mo lang listener ka, das baka may bit-bit ka rin dyang mga ha. Actually, alam mo, feeling ko marami ka ding marami, si Jeff, maraming baon yan na kababalaghan, ganyan. Ay, teka, nakalimutan kong i-share yung Hold on, share ko muna yung Yan. All the way from Singapore. Thank you so much, Mary Zai, for watching. Good evening. All the way from Singapore. Global audience na naman tayo. Ay, naku. Yung anak kong si J-Jet. Hello, good evening. Aba, baka may baong kang kababalag. Ayan. Oh my gosh, Ian, ito, so, alam mo na yung pinag-usapan natin. I invited my good friend, si Ian, to join our discussion for tonight. And he is watching all the way from his house. And I hope you're okay in your house. Alam natin kung anong meron, kung bakit nasa bahay ka lang. So I hope ma-enjoy mo yung kulot natin for tonight's video. Okay. So okay, share share mo na rin, friend. Huwag ka naman wait lang. Para may proof lang ako na hindi ka sure. May kababalaghan ka rin. Kukunan ko ng i-screenshot ko na nandito ka nga, Ian. Tapos papadala ko sa natin, sa GC natin para mabuking para may support din sa lahat. Ayan, tingnan mo na yung GC natin. Yung friend mo nanlalaglag sa GC, ako yon. Yan, okay. So, okay. And by the way, while we're about to start our session, syempre, pero ang maganda, our discussion for tonight will be very interactive. And when I say interactive, I'm encouraging everybody na may mga supernatural experiences din in the past. Na anything na from mga anything na pwedeng nakita nyo, things that you see that other people may don't see, or pwede rin yung mga na-experience yung naramdaman natin, o kaya may direct experiences tayo. It's gonna be a very interactive night kasi I'm also here to also guide you in understanding itong mga gantong bagay in the supernatural. And sabi ko nga, the more you know, the lesser you will fear. And speaking of fear, meron talaga akong, kagabi, we've been planning this session really well. And Diyos ko po, nagpa-planning session lang kami. Biglang naka-experience ako kagad ng medyo kababalaghan na na in a very unexpected time of relaxation. Oh my gosh. So my partner and I, tsaka kasama isang business partner ko, we had a spa session last night, and what is supposedly a time for relaxation, naging timely pa para may pangdagdag ako sa episode natin for tonight. Okay, so I'm gonna be sharing a little kababalaghan na fresh, kagabi lang nangyari na ayoko namang mangyari sa inyo. Okay, but at least, sabi ko nga itong session natin, this would shed light to many of the things that you may know. I'm also here to also correct some things about what we know so that mas magkakaroon tayo ng knowledge on how to handle these things. Okay? Primarily in these situations para hindi tayo palang baka oh my god masyado tayo magpanic. Okay, 'di ba? Mawala we become very imbalanced and alam natin mga nangyayari sa buhay natin kapag medyo nagpapanik tayo. So not necessarily about kababalaghan. And I will again always say the more you know, the lesser you will fear because with wisdom, everything with wisdom you receive the light through understanding everything. So sabi ko nga, just like what the guru literally in Sanskrit means, gu from the syllable gu, it literally means remover, and ru, the syllable ru literally means darkness. So remover of darkness. So that is what gurus do. Through the wisdom, we shed light, and through that, darkness gets eliminated. Okay, so I'm excited to start our session, but before we start our session, we do not start any of our sessions without saying a prayer. And kita naman, medyo asado tayo in tonight's video. Okay, I'm a practicing Hindu. I will be chanting my prayers in Hindu. But no matter which religion we're all following, please join me in prayer. Let's gather in God's name. O lalo ngayon, dahil magtatakutan tayo, tawagin natin, tawagin nyo na lahat ng pwede nyo tawagin, dasalin ng pwedeng dasalin. Wag lang yung bless us, O Lord, kasi o baka naman may kumakain dyan, gusto nyo makikain. So tama, mag-pray muna tayo. Okay? So join me in prayer. Om. 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 Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shuklam Baradaram Vishnum, Shashtivarnam Chaturbhujam, Prasanna Dhyaye, Sarva Vignu Pashantaye, Agajanana Patmarkam Gajanana Maharnisham, Anekadantam Vaktanam Mekadantam Upasmahe, Gajananam Bhutaganadisevitam Kapita Jambo Palasara Vakshitam, Umashutam Shuka Vinashakaranam Namabinignish Parapada Pankacham, Mushikavahana Modaka Hasta Chamana Karna Nilam Vitasutraha, Vamana Rupa Maheshvara Putra, Ekna Vinayaka Pada Namaste. Om Gam Ganapataye Namah. Om Astrayafat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Matriye Namaha. Jai Mahakali Harahara Mahadev. Okay, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining me in that prayer. So don't worry, that prayer, let me explain that prayer. So initially, I asked, whenever our fellow Hindus pray, we will always start invoking the energies and the wisdom of the Guru. And similarly, sabi ko nga, the Gurus will remove the darkness in everybody. So we invoke the energy of the Guru. We also invoke the Lord of Wisdom, the God of Wisdom, and the remover of obstacles, Lord Ganesha, because only through wisdom we can get to discover divinity. And after that, I did a very special prayer for protection because we're going to be discussing very, very sensitive things in tonight's session. My name is Marky Mendoza. I'm a Reiki master and teacher and also an intuitive tarot reader and teacher. But tonight is a very different and a very special episode. Here in the Tarot Tuesdays, we're going to be having our Halloween special. So welcome everybody. we're here to discuss many, many things. So primarily, I'm gonna be starting um, the story muna, how I started discovering these special gifts that I have right now. When I was little, to be honest, hindi siya ganun ka-sharp, or I didn't even know that these things exist. And little by little, I will start with the stories muna na na-experience ko. But this is a very interactive session. So that means I'm also looking forward to hear your stories. Kung meron tayong mga kanya-kanyang experiences na gusto ninyong i-share sa akin. But if these stories can be very, very sensitive, I'd highly encourage everybody to send me para hindi na masyado makikita dyan, because in our comment section, baka mamaya hindi natin alam, meron tayong mga kakilala, and kung hindi tayo ganun ka-comfortable to open these topics, I'd invite you to send your sandali. Baby, si Kala, nakita na naman niya yung friend niya. Oh my, wait lang. Oh my gosh, sandali. Wait, Kala. Okay. Baby, yung friend niya nandito. Si Kala has this special friend na inaabangan niya na nawala. Meron siyang friend butike, and nagwawala siya pag nakikita niya yung butike. gusto niya gusto niya i-friend, okay, yung butike. Oh my gosh, okay. Wala naman sa loob, no? Nasa labas lang ng salamin. Hindi ko rin alam kung paano nakarating yung butike. Nasa 41st floor kami. But anyway, okay. Hello guys, ganyan talaga pag live session. Okay. Akala ko tatalo na si Kala doon sa bintana. Okay, but here we are going back, okay? Going back. So sabi ko nga, if you have stories na you would want me to also give you guidance, or nako, if you are currently still working on these experiences, halimbawa, medyo may mga supernatural na nangyayari sa atin, share those stories and I will tell you na how to help, because this is also our goal here. Baba na lang natin. O sige, kasi nga baka makita niyo yung ano. Okay, baka mamaya may makita kayong lumilipad na nakala beans dito. Okay, so okay. So, kung meron tayong mga stories na halimbawa right now may talagang direct experiences pa, I will tell you how to improve these situations. But of course, kasi hindi lang tayo basta magkukwento dito on how we will hear more stories about it, but we're more keen on to understanding how to prevent it, how to help yourselves, and because yes, there is always a strong way for us to improve these situations. So that's why we're going to discuss this. Pero kung gusto niyo i-share yung sarili niyo mga experiences, lalo na kung gagawa kayo naman napakahabang mga essay writing contest natin, isend nyo na lang sa ating Facebook page. Sa ating Facebook page is Everyday Reiki with Marky, para hindi naman nakikita ng lahat yung ating stories, because I know these can be very sensitive as well. Okay? Oh, ayan na. Hello, good evening, si Mai, Sassy Box. Okay. Para si Kalad Karen lang yun. Okay, so good evening, na-miss kita. So, speaking of scary stories, mga kababalaghan, baka naman may entry ka, may Sassy Box, yung mga okay. Naramdaman kita, wag na. Okay, sige, joke lang naman. Okay, kaya tayo mag-gold Reiki lagi. Wait lang. Kala Beans, what's that, Kala Beans? Okay, what's that? Okay. Yan, okay. So, let's start with our session. So good evening ulit to everybody, and I really prepared well for our session for today. And sabi ko nga, as we go through yung session natin, feel free to also share your own experiences kung nakaka-relate kayo. But I'm going to start muna in my childhood, because sabi ko nga, nung gagawin namin tong session na to, I was really planning it ahead, and I was thinking na, of course, I need to have a background and to also help my audience na how these things can actually start. Okay? And so first of all, lahat ng mga bata, ages 7 and below, and I teach this in my Reiki class, lahat ng mga bata 7 years old and below, this is their innocent stage. Okay? So primarily their innocent stage, this is the time of not because they're very innocent na na parang because wala pang muang. Primarily in the consciousness, wala pang masyadong muang in terms of they cannot decide fully on their own. Kailangan pa ng guidance, kailangan pa ng may magbabantay, etc. Or magtuturo. Okay, so that's the innocent stage. But at the same time, energetically speaking, this is the time wherein the kids do not discriminate, but rather just keep absorbing anything and everything that they can. So that means, halimbawa, and this is how I usually explain these. When we talk about kids not judging, wala silang bias, it reflects in anything and everything. Kaya naman meron nga din tayong commercial dati na ano sa mata ng bata, ang lahat ng okay, wait lang, andiyan na naman yung aray ko, ayun na. Okay. Okay, Calabins, calm down. Okay, calm down. Okay. Oh. Okay, hindi ka dito. You wanna join here? Hindi na daw. Okay, mas gusto lang niya yung friend niya, hinahanap niya yung friend niya, butiki. Okay, okay. So, going back. So, yung theme na ay yung commercial dati na sa mata ng bata, ang lahat ng ginagawa ng matanda ay tama. It's because kung ano man ang nakikita ng mga bata sa mga matanda, they will always feel like it can be a right thing to do or the normal thing to do or what we can also perceive as acceptable. Okay? Because kung ginagawa ng mas nakakatanda, if they're doing it and them witnessing it, that gives them some sort of validity na baka pwede ko rin siyang gawin, baka it's okay for me to do it. But so not just that, but again, halimbawa, another good example is pag binigyan mo sila ng laruan. Okay, bibigyan sila, ito laruan. Kahit na mumurahin lang siya, the kids will not ask, wow, okay, laruan yan, sure kan laruan yan, magkano muna yan? And anong benefits niya sa akin? Can you state three positive benefits that I will get when I play with, they don't discriminate basically. So, at face value, pag sinabi mong maganda yan, pag sinabi mong it's a toy, it will make you happy, they will grasp and enjoy and embrace it fully without questions, and they would really have fun. So, in the age of 7 years old and below, because of that innocent stage, dahil wala tayong bias, this is also give something that gives way for them to see what others do not see, feel what others do not. Kasi imagine mo, unlike if you reach a certain age na meron na tayong sariling consciousness, kapag may naramdaman tayo, pwede nating sabihin na para, hindi, baka guni-guni ko lang yun, o baka wala lang yun, o baka ano ba yan, baka nalimpungatan lang ako. You will always have a logical way of finding resolution when you get to experience these things. Kumbaga, you can easily brush it aside. Okay, halimbawa, pagod na pagod ka from work, o kakauwi mo lang from work, tapos may na-experience kang something na ganyan. So, hindi, pagod lang ako. You can easily brush it aside. Unlike ang mga children below 7 years old, in their innocent stage, they can see and perceive anything that others may not because of that. Wala talagang bias. Okay, they just keep absorbing everything. Now, at the same time, isa rin yan sa reasons why in the ages 7 and below, meron din tayo sa psychology tinatawag ng mga, what do you call this, mga imaginary friends. Okay, when we talk about imaginary friends, this is really how psychologists would explain how sometimes you may catch kids na as if they have a playmate, or they can speak or communicate with things that we don't necessarily see, na it's always depicted in movies na halimbawa na may playmate sila, naglalaro ng bahay-bahayan, tapos may kalaro siya, tapos as if it's a complete conversation or an exchange ng conversation, di ba? And how it is depicted in movies, talagang wala kang makikita, okay? And to a certain extent, when psychologists would also observe these behaviors, they would tend to say na, okay, meron tayong imaginary friend, yung ganyan, okay? So, and honestly, there is nothing wrong with that. There's honestly nothing wrong with how psychologists would have tendencies to explain things on a very scientific method, because honestly, on the most logical sense, that's very important, kasi hindi tayo pwedeng we have to find something that would ground us all, something that would explain everything in a very systematic way. And that's what science is for, so that everything can feel very logical, okay? But remember, at the same time, science has only been discovered less than 200 years ago. And this universe and the multiverses around us, have existed billions and billions of years ago. And so, what kind of knowledge and wisdom do people carry in the past? Or what kind of truth do everybody believe in during the time when science was not yet there? And so, sabi ko nga, this is really another layer of understanding, another layer of wisdom that we can also, kumbaga, use so that we can discern. And here in our discussion for tonight, there's always, little by little, yung mga explanations na ibibigay ko can touch on a little bit of science as well, other belief systems, other belief systems, and possibly we'll be discussing topics then about how the Catholic faith also sees it. And syempre, as a practicing Hindu, ano naman ang pinaniniwalaan ng mga Hindus, okay? And ano naman yung mga, kumbaga, the way we understand good or evil, light versus dark, or angels versus demons in the eyes or through the lens of Hinduism, ano naman ang paniniwala namin sa mga ganyan. So this is gonna be a very exciting night, as you can see. Ah, yes. Oy, nako. Hello. The Princess of Mega World is already here. So, thank you so much for joining. Baka nakalimutan ko i-chismis sa'yo na ano, baka magpadala ka ng mga questions, ha. Nasa kababalaghan session tayo for tonight. Tingnan ko nga, baka nagpadala ka ng ano. Meron ka rin bang kababalaghan na i-share, Rain? Kaya ka nag-ano. Yayain mo na si Tita Sarita. Okay, wala pa naman ano. Ay, teka, iba pala tong ano ko. Ay, baka parang meron na. Okay. So, going back, nung bata nga ako, ay, ako nga may nagtanong nga, kalma lang kayo guys, wala tayong ano ngayon. may nagsabit ng, may nagsabit ng mga question. Sorry na, hindi tayo magtataro. Kababalaghan session tayo for tonight. So, wag muna tayo mag-send ng mga tarot questions natin. mga excited sa mga may pinagdadaanan ba tayo? Okay. Pero unahin muna natin tong chismisan natin. So, it started when I was young. There is always something about me that's always fascinating. Ay, wala. Ano yan, Rain? Wala po ako. Makikinig lang po ako for tonight's video. Okay, sige, makinig ka na maigid. Ilabas sa mga popcorn dahil ready na tayo sa ating sa Halloween special natin. So, yung bata ako, I've always been very fascinated with mga fantasy movies or mga horror. I love horror. I love kumaga anything na that can tickle my interest visually. And kapag either it's too fascinating kasi it's too dreamy, kung masyadong 'di ba, masyadong sci-fi yung dating niya or fantasy talaga yung dating, it always fascinates me because even when I was young, I really love magical experiences. I like mga ganyang mga experiences. So, I always look forward into it. And siguro kasi bata din, alam mo naman, ang mga bata, we'd always want something magical or something that would wow us, okay? Now, aside from me being fascinated with not just horror movies o kaya mga fantasy, medyo as in my in my younger years, napakakulit ko talagang bata. As in, napakakulit. Physically, as in, you would see me running around each time. So, I'm that child na talagang ang hobby ko is pag magmo-mall kami dati nung bata ko. Ang hobby ko is ako yung mawawala. Tapos ako yung i-announce nung ting ning ning. Paging po sa nawawalang bata, I'm that kid, okay? So literally sobrang likot ko talaga nung bata. And I remember in our apartment, I grew up kasi nung first few years of my life dito pa rin talaga sa Mandaluyong kami nakatira. We were renting a house in Mandaluyong, and it was such a a huge lot kasi I remember kung sobrang laki nung lot niya, yung nasa unahan may apartments, pero may backyard siya na sobrang lawak pa, and there are just other sets of apartments in between. So in short, it's like a huge lot na may apartment sa unahan and then super bakanting lote in between, and then dulo-dulo nandun naman yung another apartment. And in between, merong isang malaking puno ng mangga na sobrang taas niya na you can literally, pwede mo siyang akyatin and you'll be okay. Okay. And as a kid, natutunan ko yan na umakyat ng puno. I was so happy and fascinated just spending most of my afternoons there. Laging doon lang ako na tumatambay, and lagi akong spending my time and energy there. Either I'll climb and then kung ano-anong gagawin ko, etc. Now, there's just this one time na I was climbing, my usual na and I'm telling you, sanay na ako kahit bata ko, sanay na ako umakyat ng puno kasi I've been doing it every day. And so I was really confident to climb the tree, the mango tree. And while I was trying to conquer, ano kumbaga, parang china-challenge ko ng china-challenge yung sarili ko. Sige nga, nakarating ako ng ganito kataas, sige nga taasan ko this time. So gano'n ako lagi. So I'm that competitive, bata pa lang. And so I was trying to reach out for this branch kasi kakapit ako sa kanya, so I will step and I remember it clearly. But then again, hindi pa ako gano'n katangkad as a kid. And so medyo kakaabot kong ganyan kahit slowly I was trying to reach out. So in short, you know what happened next, medyo nahulog ako, okey? Kasi hindi ko na napakapit and then napasobra yung ano and then, out of balance. But I can't honestly describe how tall yung aking naabot nung ano, nung puno na yun, but it was pretty high for me kasi medyo 'pag nahulog ka na 'di ba, hindi, "Wah!" Hindi mo alam kung gaano kahaba ilang seconds na yun 'no, but it was pretty high kasi nga sabi ko nga, my goal is to always lampasan kung saan ako huling nakarating. So gano'n ako lagi. So it's pretty high and yung baba nung puno meron siyang mga bato-bato na very sharp and feeling ko kung ano itsura ng mga hollow blocks. Tas feeling ko yung alam mo parang medyo, mga basag na hollow blocks tapos they were just parang put on one place dun sa baba nung pinaka-ano, ng pinakapuno. So nandun siya and dun ako nahulog. And imagine na I was primarily in shock. And I know mataas yung nahulog ako and alam ko mataas siya. And alam ko yung huhulugan ko because I mean dun ako that's my starting point. And then sabi ko, "Oh my gosh." Nung nahulog na ako and nung nahulog na ako, the first thing na na-realize ito, tumayo ako agad actually. The first thing that I realized is that I didn't feel any pain at all. I didn't feel any pain. And pagtingin ko dun sa tinayuan ko, yung mga napaka-rough nga, I mean imaginin mo yung ano, yung texture ng isang hollow block. Tapos parang mga bato nga siya dun na parang basag-basag na gano'n. So it's kind of sharp, 'di ba? It's kind of sharp for me. And nahulog ako dun sa mga bato-bato na yun. And yung tipong 'pag hinawakan mo siya, yung parang puwede kang magasgasan or what. Kasi nga medyo medyo rough yung ano na yan, yung kind of bato that there is. And hinawakan ko yung likod ko, ginanyan ko and I tried to see kung ano, kung may sugat ba, kung ano, was I hurt? And there's really nothing. And I was even kumbaga dahil napahiya, alam mo naman ako may 'pag napahiya ka yung parang ano, as a kid and actually until now, 'pag napahiya ka 'di ba parang it's really an awkward moment although I was alone, I was like trying to laugh it out. Sabi ko, "Haha, hindi masakit, haha, hindi masakit." 'Di ba? And then pag so, okay, wala. And then I really didn't feel anything to be honest. And that was something that also during that time I was just thankful for. But somehow I was also parang, pero ang taas nun, but I didn't feel hurt. But okay. So that was the time. After that, kumbaga, okay, wala na napahiya na ako. Ayoko na maglaro. O, so bumalik na ako sa bahay. And I clearly remember that if not the following day, basta shortly after, um, may kasambahay kami nun dati and alam ko na nagpa-panic na siya until umuwi yung mom ko from her work and then she was also panicking. And I didn't know why they were panicking because I was literally normal. I was feeling normal, I was practically okay. But I remember na lagi lang ako nakahiga lang ako the whole time dun sa couch. But every time 'pag hinahawakan na nila ako, yung kasambahay namin and then yung nagre-report na siya sa mama ko pag-uwi. And I remember my mom always holding me here kasi 'di ba gano'n yun 'pag may lagnat o kaya 'pag may pakiramdam, "Kamusta pakiramdam mo?" Dito kaagad hahawak, 'di ba? So, and I remember na init sila sa akin na my temperature was really high, but honestly, I feel okay, I feel normal. I feel normal kasi alam ko rin yung feeling ng may lagnat. And I feel like alam niyo rin yung pakiramdam kapag may lagnat, you would mostly feel not okay. But I feel normal. But when people touch me here, my temperature is really different. Sobrang init ko talaga that time. And so, I also remember na dinala ko sa hospital but everything's normal. So, parang, sige po, paracetamol, pero mataas kasi yung fever ko and well, clearly the paracetamol may not have been working kasi dinala pa rin ako sa ospital. Okay, but After that, when tests turned out normal and still medyo gano'n pa rin yung fever ko, and then ayun na, they asked me kung meron ba akong ginawang anything special o ano bang nangyari before that, and then sinabi ko lang na naglalaro ako dun sa may puno and then nahulog ako. But sabi ko, "I'm okay," and then chine-check ko, but I'm okay. And then that's the time na yung kasambahay namin, I just remembered na nag-suggest siya na may kakilala silang friendly neighborhood na ng Mangtatawas or Albularyo. And after that, ang mga susunod na alala ko is us going there. Us going there, pero hindi ginawa yung session dun sa bahay nila. And I didn't understand. Kumbaga sinabi lang, parang sinundo lang pero hindi dun gagawin. We have to do it sa bahay namin. Um, I didn't honestly know the reason why, but now that I know some things about it, I am also thinking that the reason why hindi dun ginawa is because, I mean, the least thing you would want to happen is for you to experience it. O kaya basta maiwan dun, o pwedeng, and your house is your sacred space. So kumbaga, you would really need to protect your sacred space and you wouldn't want any not so good energies lingering around. Mostly that's what we want, di ba? So I remember after that, parang sinundo lang siya, umuwi kami sa bahay, and then that's the time na tinawas ako. And it was such a weird feeling, and again, I'm still feeling normal. And I clearly remember na nakaupo lang ako ganyan, nasa sala kami, nakaupo lang ako. I don't know what the albularyo is doing, pero ang naalala ko is yung may pausok siya, nagpapausok, napausok siyang ganyan. And the classic na merong kandila and water. That's the classic ones. And nagpapatak lang ng kandila yung albularyo. And then as in nakaganon nga lang siya, and then for some reason talagang, and I can remember how it looked like, nagte-take form talaga siya. Na nung nakita mo 'to, and my father was still alive then, and my father was looking at yung naging patak-patak nung kandila. And yes, sinabi niya naaalala ko lang tinuturo nung albularyo, sabi niya, "Ayan 'no, tingnan mo yung ulo, ayan 'yan 'no, tas tingnan mo 'to." And then they both agree that they're seeing a duwende. Okay, a duwende na na-aggravate ko. So, na-aggravate ko, so what they're trying to do is they're trying to please the duwende na I might have offended. Na ang naiisip nila, it is because, yun nga, I was playing there, medyo siguro naistorbo ko siya dahil I had an accident. But at least it saved me, 'di ba? It saved me. I was okay. I was very healthy. I didn't feel hurt. Walang galos, as in walang galos. So for me, it was such a miracle. But yun nga, I guess it had a toll on my body. And I'm honestly not understanding these things when I was younger. Kasi nga, again, I was feeling very much normal. So, I also remember na hindi din ako masyado nagsasalita dahil pinakikinggan ko lang sila ng pinakikinggan, because somehow I feel also puzzled na talaga sabi niyo I'm experiencing all those, but I just feel normal. And honestly, wala naman akong nararamdamang different din in my body. I don't feel sick, I don't feel tired, I'm just pretty normal, but everybody else around me are saying otherwise. And so binigyan ako ng, oh ayan, oh ito na yung Halloween special, ayan, oh ayan, dadan. Wow! What is that, Kalabings? Okay, what's that? What do you want? You don't want scary stories. Okay. Ayaw, hindi. Gusto daw niya ng gusto niya yung nakita na naman niya yung buti. Okay. Mm. Okay, oh, sige, you want it here? You don't want it here? Okay, sige. Okay. Okay, so going back. So, finally, sinabi na nagbigay ng instructions ang ating friendly neighborhood na manggagamot, and sinabi niya na ganitong gagawin natin. So may binalot siya dun sa may binalot siya na may ginawa siyang ritual sa akin. Of course, may konting pahid-pahid ng mga oil and etc. And yung meron sa akin na pinagpahiran that he eventually turned and wrapped into this piece of paper na nagmukha siyang parang, and he folded he really folded everything neatly, na nagmukha siyang parang, imagine mo pa-triangle siya, yung paper na malaki naging parang pa-triangle na medyo bulky. And it smells of parang, alam mo yung, what do you call that, yung oil ng coconut oil, ganun siya. So, yun, medyo Medyo gano'n yung scent niya and it was really bulky and ang instructions is kailangan ko siyang tulugan na nandun siya sa ilalim ng pillow ko. Tapos before sunrise, I have to wake up, mag-o-offer ng pera, susunugin yung pera, and susunugin din yung papel, and that should be it. That should be done. And I remember clearly doing everything the way it was instructed to my father kasi yung tatay ko yung nag-absorb ng mga gagawin ng time na yun. And he followed everything because I remember kaming dalawa yung nandun. And we were in front of our anong tawag dito, yung paglabas namin yung pintuan namin, may konting mini fence kami and a little garden here. And so we were there. Alam ko he was carrying me tapos sinisindihan niya yung yung parang triangle and then yung pera and then he burned everything. And then I just remember that after that I was okay. I was normal. I'm not hearing that they're worried anymore. And that's what I remember. And I guess I was maybe around 5 or 6, or maybe younger, maybe between 4 to 6. Kasi I was literally, that would have been younger kasi I wasn't in school yet. Maybe around 4 years old. Mga ganun, 4 years old. So, kasi hindi pa nga ako nag-aaral noon. Yeah, so that would have been that age. And I remember that my parents are better after that. Hindi na sila nag-worry and then everything turned out to be normal. And I still remember this story each time because it's really something na it was really a direct experience for me that I clearly remember, but I cannot fully understand that time what really happened. Kumbaga lagi lang akong nakikinig sa kanila na ito yung nangyari, ito yung and then ako parang yeah, okay ganun pa but but for me I was really okay. I was really normal. And little did I know that these things in the supernatural that I've experienced, it started there, can also lead to many experiences that now, in the present day, na before, wala akong understanding about these things, but I have a deeper understanding of it now. And so again, I'm inviting everybody, if you have your own personal stories, and if you have your own direct experiences, anything that concerns the supernatural, join us. Join us in discussion. Kung meron din kayong pinagdadaanan na halimbawa, meron kayong sarili ninyong stories na hanggang ngayon wala pang resolution, I can also help shed some light on these topics as well and give you a direction. There's a way for us to improve the situation should you be experiencing this. May paraan. And at the same time, sabi ko nga, this shall give way for you to grow more love and respect. Because most especially as a Hindu, I have a different way of seeing these things now. Na the concept, kasi in Hinduism, there is really not a true concept of angels and demons. Na they're purely good and then purely evil, na literally sinister yung ganun. Walang masyadong, that's not how we see the dualities in Hinduism. Kumbaga mas graspable in a sense na walang judgment. Na when I say walang judgment, it's not frowned upon na if we say na you're what we call as demonic entities kasi we call it asuras, okay? So just because you're an asura na you're discriminated, hindi ganun in Hinduism. In fact, you'll be surprised that even asuras or what we can say are demonic entities in Hinduism, they even worship God. They even worship God, and believe it or not, they just don't worship God. God appreciates yung we call it kasi tapasya or kumbaga yung offering of your devotion. When when you're a devotee, God will never turn its back on a devotee. So God will never discriminate whether you're good or bad. If you're a devotee will always be a devotee. Kumbaga, no matter walang walang judgment, walang bias. Dapat, okay, kung good being ka lang or being of light ka, ikaw lang puwedeng mag-worship o ikaw lang puwedeng maging devotee. Hindi totoo yun. In Hinduism, that's why again, I will keep saying, most especially in this episode, the more you know, the lesser you will feel. So kaya pag-usapan natin ang mga sarili-sarili ninyong mga experiences, and if it happens na medyo sensitive po ang mga pag-uusapan natin, nako, i-type nyo na lang sa ating and send it to our Facebook page, Everyday Reiki with Marky, para naman din isa-isa nating mabigyan ng ng linaw ang mga ganyang experiences. Okay, ay tingnan ko nga, parang merong mga okay. Okay, may blessing stream. Ayan, okay. Sandali, baka may mga din tayo dito, mga questions pa. Okay, sandali, okay, sandali. So again, by the way, do not forget to share it with friends and family, and baka naman mamaya meron tayong mga okay. So baka meron din kayong mga for your friends and family? Okay, sige. And who may be needing this as well, i-share nyo sa friends and family natin para marami din tayong matulungan for tonight's session. But sabi ko nga, this is gonna be a very interactive time. So let's start about talking about very sensitive things, okay? And because nandun na tayo sa mga supernatural, ha? Right, sige. So we're gonna be talking about ah we already touched on, nag-jump start na tayo sa discussion natin about my own personal experience, pero meron, as I grew older and now finally as a spiritual na person, I have been experiencing a lot of these even before I became Hindu, kasi sabi ko nga, yung progress ko was little by little. From what I know, it keeps expanding. It keeps expanding na what I know 6 years ago may not necessarily be the same truth that I believe in right now, kasi nga nag-evolve na yung aking wisdom. I want to share the same thing to everybody. Ay, great to be able to... Ay, hello! Hello, Mami Liz. Nice seeing you. Okay, so ako, medyo kababalaghan yung session natin for tonight. Na baka mamaya, hindi naman sa tinatakot kita, pero medyo nasa, nasa climax na tayo na, okay, pero, hindi, joke lang. Tinakot, okay. Let's talk about, oh my gosh, dahil na-open ko naman na ito kanita, dire-diretso na natin. Let's talk about demonic entities, okay? And lalong-lalo na sabi ko nga, I'm a fan of horror movies. I mean, who is not familiar with the very famous na with a very famous movie, Exorcist. Okay, Diyos ko po. Ayan ang mga pag-uusapan natin. Yung sabi nga ni Mommy D, 'di ba? Sabi ni Mommy D, demonyo. Okay? So pag-uusapan natin yung mga 'yan. So primarily, are demons, or is the devil real? Totoo ba? Okay, so totoo ba mga ganyan? Well, primarily, I'm no fan of horror stories, but sige, go. Kaya nga nag-pray naman tayo. Okay. So, and also by the way, kaya din ako magbibigay ng mga ganitong topics for tonight, kasi nga I want to create awareness din with these things. I want to clarify some of the things that you should know para hindi din tayo basta natatakot, and we can even prevent these things from happening. Dahil sabi ko nga, talking about exorcism, I will tell you ways para hindi tayo mapupunta sa ganung sitwasyon, because is there way to prevent it? Fine-flex ko lang yung kulot niya. Pinano ko talaga yung kulot ng session na 'to. Okay. So, is there a way para hindi tayo magkakaroon ng ganyang sitwasyon? Oo naman. May iwasan ba 'yan? Oo naman. And what if hindi natin alam na medyo na may nangyayari na palang ganyan sa atin, 'di ba? So, the more you know, the more na mas nagiging aware tayo, and because there are really steps on how we can prevent things to happen. So mas nandun tayo sa preventative side, nandun din tayo sa awareness side, para kapag may mga nangyayari sa atin, hindi natin basta in a modern day and age, where in science, advancements of science and technology, is what we are mostly focusing on. Hindi tayo pwedeng maging basta ignorant lang sa mga gantong bagay. Mga lumilipad-lipad na bagay, ay, baka naman mahangin lang kasi 'di ba may bagyo. Okay. Huwag gano'n, okay? Baka hindi natin 'pag naging in denial tayo with these things, 'di ba? Baka hindi natin alam, medyo huli ng lahat, and we don't want that. And by the way, in 2018, kasi my partner is also very spiritual. He's also a Reiki master as I am, and he's also a fellow Hindu, and we're in the same journey together. And sabi ko nga, little by little, kumbaga, what I know now, hindi ko pa to alam dati. So little by little, binubuo ko pa din. I'm putting all the pieces of these puzzles together. And so finally, the more you dig deeper, the more you understand it. And syempre, ang pinaka-importante dyan is ano bang pinaniniwalaan natin. Pati yung sa, not just our own religion, pero yung integrity ng ating religion. So the religion we grew up na binigay sa atin, how well do we trust it? Or how well do we believe the teachings? Okay? Kasi it's easy for us to say now, I just believe in it, pero is there proof? Oh, that's what faith is, diba? It's believing without seeing, or not even logical, but that's what faith is about. You just trust, okay? You put your trust into something that you don't necessarily or you cannot necessarily explain fully logically, kumbaga. But sabi ko nga, the more na alam natin ng mga gantong bagay, mas makakatulong yan sa atin. Now, we cannot also believe in God, that who created everything. We cannot believe in that ultimate supreme being that has the power to create everything without thinking na the devil is also real. Hindi tayo pwedeng ganun lang kabias. Okay? Hindi tayo pwedeng bias na yung sa maganda lang yung paniniwalaan natin. Because there is a tendency for us to be in denial on these things, just because, again, it can also be that we are full of fear. We don't understand it, or we only know it as something that's scary. We only know it as something na medyo, ano ba yan? Diba? Parang ganun lang. It's so easy for us to experience all those. But sabi ko nga, sometimes you have to keep digging deeper and understanding it more. Now, if God created everything, and then demons or the devil is also real, then why was it created? Why was it created? Okay, bakit may mga ganyan pa? Bakit kailangan natin matakot? Okay, so primarily, I grew up as a Catholic. So my belief system, the practice, everything that I grew up uh, knowing about the Catholic faith, I practice, kumbaga. And so, syempre, whatever stories in the Bible, o kaya, and napaka-active ko talaga ever since bata ako, I'm very, very fascinated with religion. I'm very active in church even when I was a little. I remember na yung bata ako, I'm part of the church choir, na children's choir, and Saturday, we have Bible study. We attend 1 hour Bible study in our block. I'm also a Sunday sa church naman, I'm a member of Legion of Mary. May mga ganun-ganun akong bata, 'di ba? Parang feeling mo kulang na lang magsakristan ako. Actually, pangarap ko 'yun ng bata, kaya lang medyo mahal yung anong tawag dito. Kailangan kasi outfit ka din, may mga polo-polo din ganyan underneath. So medyo gastos na, so na. Okay. So, but anyway, I was very active in church, and I also love hearing stories about the Bible. And so common question is that parang sometimes when I was younger, I was really thinking, I mean, if evil is really evil, and God parang kumbaga na he has this eternal battle between good and evil, I mean, he can just easily banish evil, di ba? If God is all pervading and powerful, bakit hindi niya pwedeng gawin, okay? And of course, with how, and again, I'm born Catholic, so I grew up really Catholic. It's only been 3 years when I embraced Hinduism fully. And so this is really something that took a while for me to unlearn and to embrace other things. But then again, you have to be very, very logical. Of course, there must be a specific role, a very vital, important role, why there should be those things, that the forces of good will be there, should be there, as well as the forces of the opposite, forces of evil. Okay? Now, I also the way the structure we're in, the Catholic guilt will always kick in. Halimbawa, you will go to hell. Pag di mo na ano yan, you will go to hell. Bakla ka, you'll go to hell. Kumaga, that's a Catholic guilt. Okay? So, even activities that are not godly are directly associated as evil. Okay? That's an evil. O that's demonic. O ganun. So may mga ganun-ganun. Diba? Even songs. Naku, if you grew up in the 90s, just go, even the songs, laging may meaning ang mga ganyan. Like, I grew up the laging may mga conspiracy theory talking about Hotel California, that it's demonic, and then, and then that, of course, if you're a teenager in the 90s, sasanood ka ng Magandang Gabi Bayan, which is a highlight of every November. I'm telling you, it's the bomb, and which, by the way, nostalgia was already real, pero parang isang episode na yun nangyari. I don't know what happened. So, baka may link kayo, baka naman di ko na nakuha ng tama yung link. Sorry na, pero yun nga. There's this part in the lagi yun kapag may Magandang Gabi Bayan, they're always going to feature mga ganyan-ganyan possession, yung mga ganyan. And I was like, oh my God, oo nga, no? Ini-interview, tapos, wow, yung ganun. But somehow, of course, when you grow older, you tend to question these things. I mean, because you become more logical as you grow older. I mean, that's natural, okay? That's natural. That, again, hindi tayo pwede maging ignorante. So you get to ask, okay, now that you watch, kasi there are still videos, kumbaga news channels that would say, I mean, in fact, meron nga recently, di ba, naging viral about this woman na sinapian, etc., yung ganyan. And so, but right now, when you watch it and you're already a grown up, and then you watch it, parang sometimes does it really make sense? Is it real, or is it whatever the intention is? Mapapatanong ka talaga, okay? Unlike when you were younger. And so, sandali. Okay. Hello, good evening, hello. Hello, good evening. I see you now. Okay, hello, good evening. Nandyan ka na pala ngayon. Okay, magkikita pa tayo this week. Wow! Magkikita tayo this weekend. Okay, alam mo na yan. Hello, good evening. Nice to see you. Okay, so, going back. Now that 4 years ago, when my partner and I started talking about mga supernatural, there's this film in Netflix that he let me watch. Parang talagang to draw the line kasi I was really, totoo ba? I mean, when we talk about mga ganitong possessions, totoo ba? Does it really happen? Sabi niya, okay, there's this one movie in Netflix that you can watch, but I'm telling you, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, you better prepare. I was like, well, yeah, I was really thinking I'm just gonna watch a movie, no? Na maybe sometime, alam mo na, medyo Blair Witch type ba, na parang it would seem very realistic, and but not really, alam mo yun, they can do that. So I obliged, okay, I watched, and it was apparently, so I'm not sure if it's still there. If it is, okay, so if you are not wanting to attract or invite these things, I will not ask you to watch, okay? That's why, again, lahat ng ituturo ko sa inyo is how to prevent, how to be mindful, kasi kung ayaw nyo, there's a way. Kung ayaw nyo maka-experience ng ganyan, there's a way. Kung ayaw nyo maka-invite, kasi nai-invite yan, there's a way. Kung ayaw natin matakot, there's also a way. So I'm going to tell you again, if you're not wanting to explore these things, then don't. Just, kumbaga, makinig lang sa story ko, maniwala na lang sa story ko. But for those curious cats that talagang you really wanted to see yourself, I mean, it's a Netflix anyway. So this movie is called The Devil versus Father Amort. And Father Amort, in the Vatican, is famous to be one of the best exorcists. And nakapag-exercise, he's a priest, Catholic priest, and he was able to successfully exorcise like a gazillion people in Italy. And Vatican. So nasa Italy si Father Amort. And the thing, in that documentary, it was stated na hindi lang siya masyadong na mainstream, but it was such a huge number of people with cases of exorcism in Italy alone. Well, come to think of it, the Vatican is there. Okay, the Vatican's there. So, I mean, It's gonna happen in that place. It's very possible. Which, by the way, I can't help but in fairness, if you like me sporting this kulot na ano na I'm digging it, and yung side part dito I'm digging it as well. So ang ganda ng pagkakakulot. I'm so proud of myself. So narcissist. Okay. The narcissist. Okay. Okay, so going back. So actually that was the first time na I witnessed an actual exorcism because they will demonstrate it there. They will parang si Father Amort is there to demonstrate an actual exorcism. And you'll be surprised na yung ini-exercise niyang babae, o kumbaga yung talagang tinutulungan niya that time, would start the session like pretty normal, like very, very normal. Like parang upo siya, okay, how are you? Yung mga ngamusta muna, okay naman po. Yung, syempre hindi ako lang magtatagalog, explain ko lang ng Tagalog. Okay. Love the hand. Alam mo yan, thank you so much. O, di ba mas makikita natin yung sa Sabado. Okay, so sabi ko nga, going back, napaka-normal, uupo, tapos kakamustahin, and then magsa-start na yung session. Tapos yung parang, hindi ko lang alam yung tawag, basta yung ganun sa pare, and it's called, that's color purple, iaakbay din niya, or i-envelop niya dun sa i-exercise ng babae. And then that's the time that he starts the prayer. And then the woman starting to act a little extra weird na. Okay, so that's the time that gaganon-ganon na siya. And then, ang pinaka nag-stand out yun, yung mga nakikita mo sa movies na kapag yung nagsasalita ng ano, I mean, that one, hindi mo makakaila. It literally sounds like apat yung tao in one voice. Ganun siya, para nakapatong. And it's an actual audio. So parang from, okay, that's really something. I mean, that's really something. And so, sabi ko nga, again, we cannot just believe that there's a supreme being, God, right there, without also believing the opposite. Because primarily, scientifically, this universe is always, the first thing to recognize in this universe is the dualities of energies, okay? So, positive, negative, okay? Just like how electricity happens, diba? Electricity flows. Kapag the opposite energies are there, magpo-flow yan, okay? And similarly, when spiritually, we talk about the energies of good and evil, bad, good, or in short, the dualities will also just see, it will primarily lets you aware of the, what you call this, the spectrum of the energies, good, anything that's good, anything that's bad, so that you would know the difference, okay? And so I'm saying these things kasi hindi tayo pwedeng again naniniwala sa Diyos without also believing that. Primarily, it's there. Scientifically, it's also there. Energetically, it's also there. But one must know that that possession never really happens right away. Okay, so there are steps. In understanding yung possession, and yun yung pag-uusapan natin. So pag-uusapan natin also things to be mindful of, things to observe, things to also, para habang sinasabi ko to sa inyo, kung meron kayong naaalala na experience, again, this is a very interactive session. So kung meron kayong personal stories, which nila i-check ko, baka naman may personal na mga sharing ba tayo ng stories natin dyan? Tingnan natin. Okay, gusto lang, ako bang ano, ako, para na, ang sagot ko ang ano, wait lang. Ha? Talaga? Sure ka, ha? Sige. Sige. Akala ko para tayo nagiinuman tas ako sagot ko yung chismis, no? Sagot ko yung ano, ako yung babangka. Sige, todo na natin. Okay, so walang gusto mag-share. Sige, pero mamaya, just in case later may gusto mag-share, lalo na pag binigay ko sa inyo to, then go ahead. Go ahead, and then pag-usapan natin maigi. Again, nothing, and we're most familiar with God's most amazing gift, and that's gift of life. Okay, so lagi natin sinasabi, buhay bigay yan ng Diyos, kaloob ng Diyos, pahalagahan natin, yan ang pinakamagandang regalo ng Diyos. But you know what, hindi lang yan, hindi lang the gift of life ang regalo sa atin ng Diyos. There's another very important gift that God has given to everybody nang walang bias, na yung gift na yan, not even God itself can tamper on, o hindi niya kayang mag-meddle in any of these gifts na binigay ng Diyos. Hindi, kahit God itself, hindi niya kayang harangin tong gift na to. Hindi niya pwedeng bawiin, walang exception, walang bias. And this is the gift of free will. Okay? Sabi ko, not even God, not even the devil, okay, can tamper into free will. Why? Why? Okay, so when we talk about our free will, and you would commonly hear it, alam mo, pag ako nga magta-tarot reading sessions, o kaya may it be private, o kapag nag-aano tayo, di ba, Tarot Tuesdays, di ba, I would always say, that's why hindi final kung ano mababasa kong energies, because we can change it, we can improve it, we can make it better, we can even turn things around. Okay, so ganun siya. So yes, you can. There is, kahit ang Diyos hindi kayang bawiin yan, hindi niya kayang mag-medal, hindi pwedeng mag-medal. And what do I mean? Another proof on that, and this is practically the reason why there are people who can do extremely good things, extremely good deeds, and the opposite. People can also tend to do extremely bad or evil things. Okay? And when bad things happen, and it's not that God doesn't feel happy about it or is okay about it, but of course, because of that gift of free will, of course, halimbawa, you're in a fork, you're about to make a decision, anong direction ang kukunin ko? Pag kumanan ako ng itong direction, nandito makakagawa ka ng sobrang daming blessings, kabaitan, kagandahan, etc. On the other hand, pag pumunta ka dito, makakapatay ka maraming tao. And let's say, you know of each na pahahantungan natin, kung anong turn ang gagawin mo. Let's say you're fully aware kung saan hahantong yun. Pag kumanan ka, you will do a lot of goodness. Pag kumaliwa ka, a lot of bad things na ikaw ang gagawa. Tapos kung halimbawa medyo napapakaliwa na tayo, no? And because practically in life, I mean, imagine, looking back, and this is on a practical sense, look back on your past, your experiences in the past wherein you were thinking, meron somehow, you can choose goodness or kindness pero hindi mo ginawa. Okay? So, I mean, and during those times, it doesn't have to be like purely evil, like papatay tayo, okay? Not everybody has that kind of decision making that you have to go through in a day. But there are some, of course, but not everybody. Pero on the little things, yung minsan yung magsisinungaling, o di ba? Hindi rin maganda pa rin yun. Nasa 10 Commandments din natin yun. But then again, we still tend to do. Okay? So, yung mga ganong bagay. But remember, every single time that we're gonna do something, it doesn't resonate love. Or most especially if it's going to hurt others, to inflict pain and suffering towards others, of course, God will never celebrate because we are all God's creations. Okay? And at the same time, it cannot do anything about it. Okay? Because again of that free will, hindi naman magma-manifest yung ba kumakaliwa kang ganyan, poof! Ay, Jesus, hello po. Jesus po, o anak, kumanan ka. O, dun tayo sa mabae. O, hindi siya gaganon, syempre. So God does not approve these things to happen, but because of the love and respect that they have towards us all, God will let us do whatever we want and need to do because of that gift of free will. Even the devil is not going to do that. But of course, we can only be influenced. We can only be influenced, and it starts there. Okay. So it doesn't happen right away. No one can also instantly, kumbaga, let go of that free will. Kasi iba kapag sinurrender mo yung free will, then yun na. But there are again stages. It doesn't happen right away. So here are the things to be mindful about, and what are the things to watch out for. So first of all, there are three stages. There are three stages to possession. Okay, the possession part is actually the stage, or actually the what completes the process itself. Okay, but prior to that, there are two prior steps first. And the first one is manifestation. Okay, so manifestation, what is manifestation? Manifestation is a state, or the process, or the first step wherein evil, the presence of evil, or what we call as the devil, the presence of evil, the you will know the presence of evil. It will somehow manifest in front of you. You would know, magpapakita, or you would know na may makikita ka, may mararamdaman ka. In short, malalaman mong tadan, merong something. That's the first one. So when we talk about manifestation, it can be directly makikita, as in yung how we perceive the devil is. Okay? Now remember, bakit siya napupunta doon? And remember, anything and everything that we're going to be discussing right now, it will always be depending on how we perceive it initially. Why? Kasi it has to be something that we will recognize muna. So in short, Anong pagkakaalam natin ng itsura ng mga devil? Anong pagkakaalam natin itsura, let's say, multo, white lady, duwende? Anong pagkakaalam natin na itsura nila? It has to start one dun. And they will only manifest in the way that we would understand na yun yung tinutukoy nila. Kasi otherwise, it won't make sense. It won't make sense. Okay, ano yun? So we have to know first, ano muna yun? So they will manifest in a way for us to get and understand what they are. Okay, so if we're talking about manifestation of the devil, how do we know of the devil? Okay, so yun, and that's the first step. We're in. First of all, when we encounter such, that's the perfect opportunity then for us to, okay, so on the side of that, may pwede na tayong gawin para hindi na tayo magpo-progress sa other steps. Okay? So basta later on, we will talk about preventing these things to happen. Dapat kasi meron tayong accountability din para hindi na mangyayari sa atin. Most especially, Diyos ko po, sa mga medyo mahilig ng adventure, kasi I'm telling you, if these things, 'di ba, if we're just doing it out of fun to entertain ourselves, or because somehow, and I recall when I was younger, I was just doing it so that I can feel cool, not a good thing. Okay, not a good thing. And then nako, sometimes minsan dun tayo makaka-experience ng iba pa. Okay, para lang masabi na, oh, okay ka na ba? Oh, eto na 'yon. Okay, so we won't want that. So first is manifestation. First is the time for us to see and experience, hear, or in short, minsan yun yung mga may maririnig ka. And sometimes, kaya nga in psychology, sometimes this is also, just like how these are steps, it can be something relatable when we talk about schizophrenia. Okay, that's why yung mga sinasabi natin, of course, locally, yung mga tinatawag natin medyo nahulugan na, okay, na medyo hindi na kinaya, okay, you would commonly hear stories, or if you haven't experienced seeing one, you would normally see these people as if they're in constant conversation with things that we don't see, but they can. Okay, so in short, manifest sa kanila, it doesn't mean others can see it, pero dun sa kanila kitang-kita, klarong-klaro, kumbaga. So that is one, and that again is the first step, manifestation. Either you hear it, sometimes kasi you just don't see it, but you would hear it. You would hear voices, and it would seemingly feel that it's just inside of your mind, and it can be glaring enough, most especially the time that you're alone, you're quiet, or you're also vulnerable. So we'll talk about these things. What are the instances then later on that may lead to these things, to attract these things? Okay. Now, once the presence is already known, that automatically, if you don't do anything about it, it will progress to the next one. Now, when we talk about the next one, the next phase, which is, if manifestation is already weird, wait until you get to the next phase, which is, the next phase is either called obsession or infestation. Okay, obsession or infestation. Now, the next process, or the process of obsession or infestation, so this for the obsession, di ba? Nag-o-obsess ang alin, sino? The devil itself. The devil will be obsessing on the prey, and that happens to be you, dahil sa'yo nag-manifest, sa'yo nagpakita. And what happens during the time of obsession? Doon na sa part ng infestation, infested, kumbaga, anong tawag dito, may presence, okay, may presence ng evil. If there's presence ng evil, and during the time, in the process of obsession, that's the time that torture happens. What kind of torture? When we talk about obsession or infestation, this is where the power is exercised mostly, to create and to instill fear, to create, ay nako, madidisorient, like there are gonna be some flying things around. Okay? Huh? Huh? Oh my gosh, depression is, by the way, another way for us to also, one of the things that can actually invite these things, and I will tell you why. Even a state of depression can be a gateway to these things. But remember, naalala nyo in Tarot Tuesdays, every time na nagta-Tarot Tuesdays tayo, di ba, kung anong tinanim siya nga anihin, it's a universal law. It's a golden rule. We call it the golden rule for the Catholics and the Christian Catholic faith. Again, for us Hindus, we call it karma. So in short, kung anong tinanim siya nga anihin. Even the emotions that we feel, ano tinatanim natin? What kind of emotions are we feeling, processing, also emitting? That, and remember, similar energies will attract. If lahat yan hindi maganda and nai-emit nating energy hindi maganda, and then we throw it out there, of course, someone will resonate with it or something will resonate. And of course, it will only attract the same form of energy. Hindi rin maganda. Okay? So, now, going back, when we talk about obsession and infestation, that's a time na one, may mga lumilipad ng mga bagay to exercise the power to make sure that the presence is not just known, but felt and experienced to instill fear, pain, and suffering. Tatakutin ka ng tatakutin in a form of torture. And there will be sleepless nights. And why? Because when a person is restless, pag ang tao walang tulog, mas hindi, Diyos ko, we're not always at our best. We become more vulnerable. There can be the state of paranoia that can happen after. So, nagkakaroon siya ng domino effect. And these things, again, sabi ko nga, sometimes we don't know, o kaya subtly, baka may mga nangyayari na sa atin tapos hindi pala natin masyadong hindi pala natin masyadong na na-experience o na-explain rather. Okay. Ay, Blessed All Saints Eve sa main. Hello, Teacher Or. Hello, and friends. Hello, good evening sa iyo, Yuli. Maraming sila. Hey. Tapang yan. Okay, so hey. All the way from Sweden, we have a global audience ulit. So hello, my fellow Reiki Master. All the way from Sweden. Okay, so, di ba? Gusto mo ng ghost emoji, Sure ka. Joke lang. Okay, so going back. So, again, nandun na tayo sa part nung obsession or infestation wherein weird things start to happen. And oftentimes, physical na mga bagay can also happen. Physical torture can also happen. The person, yung in which the devil is obsessed about, pwedeng physically na-hurt. Kaya that's why in exorcist movies, you would see the victim that's always parang physically, parang laging nabugbog. Okay? Because it happens. And sometimes, di ba, may makikita kayo sa mga movies. Oh my gosh, when you watch The Conjuring, yung mga ganong movies, oh my gosh, talagang grabe yung mga depiction, di ba? And so you would see them flying around, being the contortionists that they are. But these things really happen. Okay? But why is the obsession or the infestation part a very vital role in this process of possession? Why? Because oftentimes, remember, again, I mentioned earlier, this would feel like torture. And a person, from the torturer to the person being tortured, anong goal? To surrender something. O para, sige na, you have to submit. Okay? Yield. On what? Our free will. Our free will. The process of infestation or the obsession is a way for these demonic entities for us to eventually surrender our free will. And somehow, sabi ko nga, di ba, these things, at the same time that you're feeling it, nasasaktan tayo, in short, you will become restless, ayaw mong matulog, ayaw mong pumikit, ayaw mong anything, and you will become extra vulnerable. And then in your mind, or you will get to hear something that would also entail na you have to, you want things to stop, okay? You want things to be better, you want me to stop, may mga ganun yan. And then, all you need to do is to say yes. Surrender your free will, parang ganun. Ayan, tawang-tawa ako sa tapang niya. Totoo naman, di ba? Matapang katandaan mo. Di ba? Pag-uusapan pa ba natin? Alam mo na yan. Okay, so going back. So again, when we talk about yung part ng the torture that's meant to happen, the torture, the pain, yung mga flying stuff, yung mga ganyan, gagawin kang contortionist, it's gonna be very much of a torture because the goal there is for you to just say yes, surrender. Okay, but remember, the devil, as depicted by the Holy Bible itself, it's the king of deceit. Okay, so talagang kunwari lang, you cannot have a deal with the devil without thinking na can the devil double cross me? Of course, that's their nature. Okay, that's their nature, and you can never fully trust evil, of course, because their deceitful nature will always manifest one way or another. Okay, so as they are the Lord of Lies, of course, sasabihin lang nila initially that, okay, if things will stop, things will become better, things will become normal if you just say yes. I mean, But just say yes. I mean, how hard can it be? Just say yes, basically. Then again, that is the final trap that's waiting to happen, because finally, just so that we get relieved and we turn in all hopes that everything will turn back to normal, and that can be the perfect opportunity to finally the last stage will be fulfilled, in which we call possession. Okay, possession. And that's when the time that, of course, when you finally give up your free will, of course, iba na yun. Iba na yun. And again, hindi siya yung technicality na, pero may torture, pero may ganito. Again, it's really the process. And the technicalities na, well, you said yes anyway. Okay, pwede namang hindi ka mag-agree. Di ba? Ganon. But still, when you're able to willingly surrender it by any means possible, and then that's the only thing that's waiting um, for the devil to finally complete the task of possessing the person. And that's the time that the priest will perform exorcism. So, first of all, not everybody na nasa part ng infestation or obsession or even manifestation pa lang, pwede kasing, alam mo, honestly, manifestation pa lang, I mean, go see the priest right away. And I will also give the recommendation, the archdiocese of exorcism, hindi ko masyadong kabisado, si yung partner ko kabisado. Anong tawag dun, Bibi? Yung sa Guadalupe? Archdiocese of Manila Office of Exorcism is in Guadalupe. Okay, so that's the place to go. At the site in manifestation pa lang, go there. Okay, because our priests, may trained na tayong priests directly trained by the Vatican that is knowledgeable on how to do it. There's a process, there's a thorough process. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, even with the other religions, if they have a severe case of that, dadalin pa rin nila sa Catholic Church, because they have the ability, they were officially trained to do and to handle and to exercise. Kumbaga, there's an agreement. Pwede yun. There are other belief systems to do it. Hindus do it differently, of course. But mostly, if like halimbawa, I mean, wala namang, the population of Hindus in the Philippines are not that huge, not unless more prevalent in the, what do you call this, in the, if they are Indian nationals, of course, but of course, like locals, like Filipinos as well. I mean, konti lang kami, kumbaga. So, going back, at the sight of it, manifestation pa lang, nandun pa lang sa narinig or na ano, go see a priest. Because again, it's important for these things to be controlled. Okay? And there's a way. There's a way. Hindi na magpo-progress yan. You don't have to go through the infestation and obsession part. Okay? There really is a way. And most especially kapag nandun na sa part na nag-o-obsess na, okay, and may infestation na, may mga lumilipad-lipad na bagay, things that are unexplained. And the reason pala why I'm telling this, because I have a very direct experience on this. And this happened in 2018, and hindi pa ako Reiki master nung time na yon. But I was already, sabi ko nga, I met my teacher 2016, and I've attended, pinakyaw ko yung workshops ng teacher ko, honestly. Ang hindi ko lang na-attendan sa kanya, practically, mga dalawang types of classes lang, hindi ko na-attendan sa kanya, pero lahat na kumpleto ko yan. And, ako medyo mahaba. Tibetan Buddhists have a form of exorcism, pero we don't have a designated na lama talaga, at least to my knowledge, here in the Philippines, who can deal with cases of obsession and possession. You're correct, because again, it's a thorough process. Because the process of possession itself, now you know, is also a thorough process. So if it's a thorough process to get in, it's the same to get out. Okay, hindi siya parang bam, parang Our Father and then you're done. It cannot. Okay, it's a process. It's a process. And also, in fact, in the movie that I mentioned earlier, The Devil versus Father Amort, there are cases that you can't do it in one session. There are cases that you have several sessions, and it's actually documented. Every session is documented, huh? Yeah, and sometimes to an extent, it takes years. Dun sa documentary na yon, it's literally session over session over session. And Father Amort during that time, parang sobrang tanda na niya. Sobrang tanda na niya that time. Like medyo siguro nasa 70s, ganun na siya. That old. Imagine mo that old tapos nag-exercise pa rin, because there's many hundreds of thousands of cases in Italy. Ang cases in Italy alone, cases ng obsession and ay ng possession, demonic possession. And so again, at the site of it, may obsession, possession, go see a priest. It's in Guadalupe. Now I'll tell you a personal story because in 2018, I know of a friend who has experienced this directly. Okay. So hindi na natin papangalanan kung sino yung friend niya, but I was with this person during that time, and then a friend suddenly called me for an emergency, and it's a spiritual emergency. So sinabi niya kasi because I'm into these things, and remember I keep telling about my background na not all of my friends and family totally adjusted or understood or to a certain extent believe what I was going through or my transition to spirituality in Reiki, tarot, into these things. But for some reason, I have a friend na I never expected to believe in spirituality, or at least what I do, but called for SOS. And then sabi niya, I know you're into these things and ikaw una kong naisip, and I'm thinking na you can help. So ito yung case niya. Okay, so sinabi niya na meron kasi akong mentor ko kasi to. Itong mentor ko, we do sessions together, but somehow ang nag-reach out sa akin is yung anak ng mentor, because yung nanay daw niya strangely nagkaroon ng mga sugat-sugat sa katawan, sa buong katawan. And it felt, and the way it was described sa akin ng friend ko, sinasabi sa kanya na yung mommy daw niya puro butas-butas na yung katawan niya, puro sugat and butas. Ganun yung the way it was explained. And sabi niya, I think you can help. And I was like, yeah, I can. So go ahead and send them over. Not really send them, pero mag-uusap kami over the phone. But while I was wanting to assess things, yung kasama ko during that time is also spiritually very aware. The person's also spiritual and may background siya sa ganitong mga bagay, and in fact nagpa-participate siya into mga rituals of the church. In fact, nag-participate siya ng exorcism. There's a place in Cubao officially na dun ginagawa din yung ng mga exorcism, and you can participate, but you have to go through, syempre, if again it has to be perfectly done, you have to go through confession, dapat nag-communion, dapat basta may mga certain given conditions. If you don't meet that, you can't be there, kasi you can be just an open vessel of it. Baka mamaya sa'yo lumipat, hindi pwede yan. Okay, so now, and I was already trying to sense it. Is it something that I can? Because I'm telling you, with the Reiki, I was only a Reiki practitioner. Yung time na yun, student pa lang ako ng Reiki. And as a level 2 Reiki practitioner, I can already do many things. And remember, Reiki, the good thing about Reiki, it's love energy. It's actually light energy. So it's like a weapon of light. Okay, so you can channel the energy of light. And using that energy, it can be hurtful to the opposite energy. Okay, and forces of darkness, it can feel extreme for them because that's not their nature, kumbaga. We can adapt to it. It doesn't hurt when we channel it, because our body, our consciousness in this lifetime, human beings can perceive both. We can perceive kindness, love, light, and we can also perceive the total opposite. But definitely, we perceive it, we know it, we can handle it. Okay? So during that, I was thinking, okay, magre-Reiki na lang ako, papadalan ko na ng Reiki. Kasi may mga times in before in my past as a student, ang dami ko ng pinagdaanan, lalo na marunong na ako mag-tarot, and I got certified as well in angel and spirit communication. So I sort of know how to communicate. So ang dami ko nung nagagawa even as a student, because I really sought out mga other, kumbaga, I learned Reiki from my teacher, but it was also a time of my journey that I wanted and I needed to learn skills and abilities. And so I attended every session that would help sharpen my skills and discover these skills, in which we all have, by the way. And I teach that as well. Kaya nga ako nagtuturo ng tarot, di ba? So, I teach those. And I learned them all as a student. Pero sabi ko nga, so I was already assessing, okay, siguro gagamitin ko na lang yung Reiki ko, yung ganyan-ganyan. But, so finally, when the phone rang, it was literally like a 911 call. And then yung batang lalaki was like parang screaming na as if parang tulungan niyo ako, parang gano'n na siya. tulungan niyo ako, parang tapos umiiyak, si mami ko po," yung gano'n na. And then while na yung kasama ko habang naririnig niya sabi niya, Hindi kaya ng Reiki 'yan." Sabi niya, "Hindi kaya ng Reiki 'yan, dalhin mo na padala mo na siya dun sa ano, padala mo na siya dun sa ano, sa Guadalupe, sa Archdiocese. The priest will do everything." Sabi niya, "Hindi mo kaya 'yan, telling you hindi mo kaya 'yan." Okay. And then I was like, "Okay, sige, sige, let's do that." Okay, sabi niya, "So, saan niya dadalhin?" So, parang kumbaga binibigay na lang sa'kin yung, "Pupuntahin mo sa ganito, sa ganyan." Tapos eventually sabi ko, ikaw na nga magsabi." And then siya yung, "Hello po," and the moment na nag-explain siya, and then maya-maya nakita ko na lang yung kasama ko na namumutla na. And I was like, "Uy, you okay?" Eh, parang gano'n. Parang kasi kausap pa 'no, sabi ko, kasi ano ko na parang medyo as in pale, like yung dito mo kang binabad sa suka, pale, namutlata talaga. And yung kasama ko kasi na yun knows of Latin, and then nanginginig-nginig siya after ng sinabi na lang niya na parang sinabi daw sa kanya in perfect Latin na, "You're next." Don't meddle kundi you're next, gano'n. So kaya pala siya namutla. And in perfect Latin, okay, so I was like, "No, okay, nako Latin, okay, ding, 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 okay, no." So eventually, nagprogress pa yon. So, you're inside the condo, paglabas niya, may bigla siyang naramdaman do'n sa likod niya, and then lo and behold, may tatlong sets ng scratches sa likod niya na parang tatlong claw marks na isang pa gano'n, and isang pa gilid na kung sarili mong kamay hindi mo siya maaabot. On So, naalala ko yung nangyari. Actually, may photo pa ako nun. I have it with me kasi pinicturean ko kasi sabi, "Ay, aray," gano'n. Sabi, "Ano 'yan?" Sabi ko, "Wait lang." So, I took a photo of it and then I still have it. But of course, I'm not gonna show it. It's bad. Okay. So, may protection 'yan, ano, yung photo na 'yan sa akin. But there. And then, so the instructions happen, and then me being able to see, nung tinitignan ko na siya, sabi ko, "Oh my God, ano 'yan?" So, tinitingnan ko yung kasama ko, and there's just black smoke all around the person, and hindi ko maintindihan. Sabi ko, "That's the first time I've seen such thick black smoke." And I was looking, sabi ko, oh my God." Sabi ko, "What's that?" And true enough, with my level of Reiki nga before, again, as a student, tama yung ano na hindi siya makukuha lang ng Reiki lang. And of course, as a student with not much knowledge, of course, let's not handle these things. Okay, again, there are people who are very much trained to do it, and the priests are trained, most especially yung mga priests that are trained by the Vatican, and ano mo, continuously may tinitrain ng Vatican. Okay, so yeah, these things really happen. So yes, so going back, ang nangyari after nun, so we were given binigyan ng instructions yung gano'n, and nung nag-i-interview, nasa infestation part pa lang, nasa obsession part pa lang, and then so no need for exorcism. So binigyan siya ng ano, may deliverance prayer din na yun, eh. May deliverance prayer, and then right after when they stepped out of din the facility, the person got healed, the person got better. And I just heard na lang from my friend na nagte-thank you siya on his friend's behalf. And then nag-message na lang din sa akin yung anak, "Okay na po si mommy," yung ganyan, "Thank you so much po sa advice," yung ganyan. And so yes, these things are real. But of course, sabi ko nga, hindi naman makukumpleto yung ating session without, of course, giving you another perfect opportunity for you to learn something in these. Primarily, do not do not take things on your own. Don't think na you can handle these things on your own kasi it can create more harm than good. Okay? So first of all, there are people who are meant to deal with these. So bibigay natin sa kanila 'yon. Wag nating i-handle ang mga bagay that we are not professionally trained to do. Okay? But there are people who can. So doon natin ibibigay doon sa may kaalaman talaga. Hindi tayo pwedeng lang, take one for the team. Pwede ko naman 'yan, ganyan. Wag gano'n. Okay? Kasi the least thing you would want to happen is, again, be very much part of it next. 'Di ba nga, sabi ko nga yung may warning na, 'di ba? May warning na dun sa nag-Latin, sabi sa kanya, 'di ba, "You're next." Okay. But now let's talk about possibly attracting these things. Dahil na-mention ko yan kanina, dahil remember, two ways for us to go through this is because, remember, Puwedeng ma-attract din natin unknowingly, puwede ding knowingly. Puwedeng consciously, hindi natin alam, yun na yung natatawag natin. So first of all, the ones that can attract it consciously or naturally, primarily, these are the people that have very strong sensitivity and energy. Yung meron talagang naturally, there are people that are born with very strong third eye na bukas na bukas na bukas. And I would want to correct, before I continue, I would want to correct one statement because we would commonly hear na, halimbawa, and I get messages of that as well. I have students who message me o kaya may mga iba nag-i-inquire na sinasabi nila na pwede bang pakisara yung third eye ko, pwede bang ganun. Primarily, there is no such thing as a closed third eye. Lahat po ng third eye natin bukas, okay? And it's a chakra. It's here, where the bindu is. That's why us Hindus, this is a bindu, a reminder of where the soul is. Okay, so that's why we put a bindu, a mark there for us to remember who we are, a soul. We are a soul, so we have to remember that. And in this, the third eye is a chakra, and the chakra system in Sanskrit, chakra meaning wheel that keeps on spinning. In short, it will never stop spinning. Similarly, like the Earth, the universe, the solar system, it's all spinning and it's all vibrating. Because the moment it stops, everything ceases to manifest or to have life. Okay, so that means patigil mo yan, it's not gonna spin. Something will happen. Okay, so you can't close it. Okay, now the third eye is directly associated with our skeletal system. Closure of the third eye will mean a collapse on your skeletal system. So that means, okay, you want it intact? Okay, so hindi pwedeng isara. Okay? Primarily, hindi mo siya masasara ng ganon. Again, you can't. But the difference is why there are people who can be very sensitive to these things is because walang blockage. Either super lakas kasi, I'm telling you astrologically speaking, there are people that are astrologically, when there are certain planets that align, nandyan yung natural gifts. Meron yan talaga. Meron at meron yan. But it doesn't mean others don't. It's just that they're not gonna be very particular with it. They're not gonna be very. It takes effort for them to sense it. It may take training for them to sense it. It takes mindfulness and awareness before you sense it. But therefore, most of the people who don't have much sensitivity into these things, yung hindi nakakaramdam, hindi nakakita, wala, o kaya yung parang, most especially in energy, bawa, nag-Reiki ako, it's a very warm energy, but there are some parang, who would take time to discern, yung, meron ba akong nararamdaman? Meron ba o wala? So it's not that they really don't have the ability, it's just that may mga blockage sa sistema natin, sa chakra system natin, that would also not allow us to feel the vibrations, the real vibrations of the universe. And in fact, everything in this universe vibrates. Hindi lang natin alam. Hindi lang natin alam. Everything vibrates. Even non-living things, they all vibrate. Hindi natin alam. Okay? But remember, when a person knows how to tap into these energies, and then that's the time that they will sense the vibration. It's very subtle. These vibrations are very subtle. That's why it takes mindfulness and awareness and inner knowing for you to tap into these vibrations because it's too subtle. It's too subtle. Okay? So for people who have very strong third eye, walang blockage sa third eye, they're primarily the very easiest target ng possible highest candidate ng mga possible demonic possession. Why? Aba, hindi na mag-e-effort. Hindi na mag-e-effort ang mga demonic entities na imagine mo kailangan pa nila magpa-showcase ng power na may mga lumilipad-lumilipad. Okay? may mga nahuhulog elsewhere. They don't need to exert much effort. Hindi na nila kailangan magpakita to be perceived as a demonic entity for a person who can see it effortlessly as well. So in short, hello, isang ganun lang, you're there, okay. That's because on the other hand, if a person is maraming blockage sa sistema natin and they are not mostly sensitive to these things, then that's the time that kailangan mag-effort. Kasi again, there are people na pwedeng maging logical na lang, "Ay, lumipad ba yun? Baka mahangin lang." Okay, you would go through tests to become logical, etc. Okay? So you can, kahit na imagine mo, ang dami nang nag-e-effort na, kawawa naman yung demonyo, nag-e-effort na tapos hindi na, nai-invalidate naman yung feelings. Hindi, joke lang. Okay, so imagine mo, they need to exert a lot of effort just to make their presence known. For you to just agree, baka may nangyayari na bang supernatural? Is it quite obvious? Ganun na. Not until, sabi ko nga, not until dahil nga, again, there are 3 processes and 3 steps for it, di ba? Again, kaya siya may steps. It doesn't happen instantly. So for those who are very sensitive, malakas ang third eye naturally, they're primarily an easy target. Okay? That's why us na medyo sensitive to energies, of course, we can sense, we can see, we can feel. And it also is our weapon. Kasi ano ba, nakikita mo na dyan, pupunta ka pa ba? Okay? Dadaanan mo pa ba? Okay? Yeah, entertain mo pa ba? Of course, you're gonna find ways. So it also helps. Okay? Di ba? So, one, if you're naturally very sensitive to these things, or ano naman yung chance din na you get to attract these things kung hindi ka naman sensitive o kung hindi ka naman aware. Others, out of curiosity, through forms of divination. Okay? AKA, anong pinaka-famous? Nako po, ano ba, saan ba nagsa-start lagi ang mga karaniwang horror movie? Biglang may bagong lipat sa bahay, pagtingin sa basement, meron palang isang box na merong Ouija board. So, yung and then magsi-spirit of the glass or mag-Ouija board. Yung mga ganyang tools for divination. Okay? So, yeah, those things. Because again, you're trying to reach out or to contact things that are not seen by the naked eye. So, yung mga ganyan tools. And one of the reasons why there should always be, these tools for divination, Ouija boards, and even tarot cards. Lagi ako nagwa-warning sa inyo, di ba? You can self-learn these things, but if you're not professionally trained and if you don't know how to really do it right, you may be attracting a lot of bad things and hindi mo lang siya alam. Okay? So again, you'll be surprised that tarot cards are very much the same as Ouija boards. They're the same. Different method, but it's the same kind of energy that we're. How do you think we can send something in the future? We're not tapping to this reality. So yes, but so yun. So either sometimes the person can be curious lang. Okay, totoo kaya? O di ba minsan ba, sige nga, ganun, and then biglang may experience. Okay? So again, sometimes it starts with curiosity. Okay? But curiosity sometimes can also not be the sole case. There are times that a person can go through a challenging, a traumatic, or a tragic experience in their life, most especially grief. Okay, and I have a very strong warning for everybody who may be processing grief as of the moment. Please do not call out your dearly departed. Okay, please do not call them out. Again, kung sinasabi natin, primarily there's a fair reason why we always wish may they rest in peace. At sa tawagin mo pa ng tatawagin, di ba para ikaw, matutulog ka na. It's your bedtime. Tapos biglang, hoy, Marke! O, di ba? How will you rest in peace? Okay? If we really pray and wish them to rest in peace, and then, wow, don't call them out. Okay? Do not. Because you wouldn't really know who will respond. Para kang ganito. Para kang nag-a-announce, hello, hello, hello. Sino pong nakakarinig? And then someone will, of course, agree. Someone can even, or something can even pretend. They can even pretend. And they can even, worst of all, they can pretend to be your loved one. And remember, the people who may be going through these things are mostly vulnerable. And so be very, very careful. If you're gonna ask me, or noon time kasi nung hindi pa ako Reiki master, one of the services I offer, kasi nga I'm professionally trained for spirit communication, to communicate. Just kung may mga, minsan manghuhula ako, minsan magke-cleansing ako ng bahay, minsan may mga papa-ward off na kung ano-anong evil entity sa bahay. Meron pang time na medyo ano ako, medyo seance ang aking service. Do I still do it now? Now I don't do it anymore. I don't do it anymore because I don't see it ethical. I don't see it ethical anymore. Sabi ko nga, what I know before, the truth that I served before is not the same that I still that I may say that I may not be served. Ay palaka, sorry, nahulog, sorry. I may not agree, and it's also okay, because again, the more you know, the lesser you will fear, and at the same time, the more you know, the more it will protect you. Okay, there are things that should be left unsaid, and it's part of the karma, it's part of the process that we all need to go through. Okay, so for people who meron din na kasi akong kilala, oh my gosh, lagi nilang ginagamit yung name ng dearly departed nila. At sabihin niya, tatawagin nila yung name ng lolo. O lolo, paki-guide niyo po ako, gagawin namin tong ganito. May gusto po kami, tulungan niyo po kaming ipag-pray natin tong ganitong ano lolo ha. Tapos tapos pinapasa-pasa siya even to kids. O pray to lolo, tell lolo, as in may ganun. Please do not do that. Please do not do that. It's like you shouting out. And again, remember, these can be the opportunities. It can be, you can easily go through. Kung nag-a-announce ka ng ganyan, nagtatawag-tawag ka ng ganyan, it's like you volunteering yourself as a tribute. Okay, so do not. Again, if we really want to stay true to the RIP, to the rest in peace, then we have to honor that. Let the soul be at peace. Okay. So, during those vulnerable times, a person who may be going through grief is also another strong candidate for these. Aside from they're vulnerable, I mean, you would also commonly hear stories, people calling o kaya in grief na sinasabi nila, paramdam ka lang, hindi naman ako takot. Paramdam ka lang, para lang hindi naman ako takot, yung ganyan. But you know what, sabi ko nga, again, you wouldn't really know kung ano talaga yung natatawag natin, most especially kapag nag-respond. And 'di ba, magparamdam ka lang, o di ano na 'yon, edi pwedeng step 1 na 'yon, manifestation, 'di ba? So please don't. Please don't. And sabi ko nga, the more that I give awareness on these things, 'di ba, mas maiiwasan ang mga gantong bagay, kasi practically pwede naman talaga natin siyang maiwasan. So people going through a tough na life lesson in life, you're going through grief. And that's why kanina nasabi ko, people who go through depression are also very vulnerable, because again, you talk about everything is energy. Thoughts produce energy, our emotions, they produce energy, and whatever we process in our thoughts and the emotions that we get to feel and process while processing these thoughts, abad, and imagine mo, two forces are what you're channeling, so it can attract. Halimbawa, you're thinking of bad things and you're also feeling bad things, and you throw it out there. Parang radio frequency yung mga yan. When we talk about radio frequencies, one way or another, when you're able to tune in to the right frequency, may makukuha kang radio station. Okay, so if you're channeling these, ay wait lang, ano na nangyayari dyan? Ano nangyayari? Ba't ganyan yung laro ninyo? Medyo extreme ang laro nilang nitong mag-ama ko dito. Okay, sorry na, naaliw lang ako. Kasi parang feeling ko mamaya may game kami. So, okay. So, going back, again, so remember, the energies that we emit, they create these sound waves, okay? These radio waves, radio frequencies. Now, when you tune into the right frequency, may makukuha ka. So when you keep processing these thoughts, it comes with a strong emotion. It sends out these like radio waves, and then someone will absorb it, someone will get it, and will go to where the frequency is happening. You wouldn't want that, okay? Even people going through tough situations to an extent, to an extent, di ba? Again, depression. Kaya naman sabi ko nga, again, these are all vulnerable people at the same time. What if mag-combo because you're processing grief? Okay, so that can be another thing talaga. So, of course, how do we prevent these from happening? And that's why we always say, I mean, reconnecting to God, okay? Reestablishing your relationship with God can honestly do wonders. Kasi sometimes we cannot believe God Almighty is there without also believing the opposite. Ay, ika nga, curiosity kills the cat, as the old adage goes. Na, di ba? Sabi, it all starts somewhere, di ba? And I'm telling you, the reason why, in this episode, hindi lang tayo basta mananakot. We have to educate you that you all have the power. You all have the power to also not go through this and not be the next topic next year. Pag nag-Halloween na naman tayo next year. Meron akong nanonood ng Tarot Tuesdays last year. Ngayon, nag-message siya sa akin, eto na. So, di ba, hayaan nyo na yung sarili kong stories are in the past and hindi na natin dadagdagan ng di ba, another amazing story na pagchichismasan natin in another upcoming episode. So we need to always be mindful na whenever you see yourself in a rough patch, again, of course, we have to go through it. It's part of the process of learning the lessons. But again, it also pays off if we're going to be extra mindful. So if you're going to process these things, these emotions, these tough situations in your mind and in your heart, di ba? Parang, I mean, one can never say that there's an on and off switch for this. Like, I'll turn it on so I can process things, I can turn it off. But to be honest, there is. There is. But yun nga, it takes a certain level of consciousness for you to really be very much balanced. Yun yung sinasabing a person is well balanced. That no matter what you want or need to process, no matter what you need to go through, physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, a person that's well balanced can go through anything and everything without compromising the priorities and the responsibilities. All at the same time. But then again, sabi ko nga, it takes a deeper form of consciousness and awareness and mindfulness before a person can go through that. But remember, sabi ko nga, if it has to come to a point, sometimes kasi ang question natin, so in short, there are really people who's meant to go through this, to experience the supernatural. Sometimes only for us to really know a very good real life story that would prove God's existence and the devil's existence so that we can strengthen our relationship with God, then yeah, sometimes we have to really, kailangan natin to see something logical as well. To see something that's in front of us that we cannot fully grasp and understand so that we can finally believe these things. Kasi sometimes we just need, all it takes is ang huling-huli na lang pwede nating, ang natitirang hindi na lang natin ginagawa is maniwala at magtiwala. Lalong-lalo na sa Diyos. Okay? So if you are someone who may not necessarily, let's say you've taken a pause, or let's say you have not been consistent with your relationship with God, or no matter how you get to discover God, it can be in a form of religion, or if you're a very spiritual being at the same time, di ba? No matter what you believe in. Kasi sabi ko nga, kaya importante yung belief natin. Importante yung religion natin kasi on what resonates, dun tayo pupunta. And that's the same reason why not everybody may necessarily believe mga albularyo. Because we don't understand the practice. We don't understand the truth. Hindi natin siya pinag-aralan. Unlike the Bible, if you're born Catholic, there's a way for you to study it. There's someone who can teach you, but not everybody can teach you about the other things that are also natural. Again, sabi ko nga, 'di ba? I mean, it's a very vast universe, okay? We can never just believe in just one thing. And it's not just about this is the only thing that's true. There are many forms of truth that are out there. But again, similarly, wherever you are, that's the only space that you can grasp, and it's a very vast universe, space out there. We're so tiny, so puny. Okay, so we can never think that we're too special, na tayo lang. Okay, so again, we have to be very open, be mindful. Now, sabi ko nga, when you experience these things, mas maganda na you go to what resonates. Like if you're born Catholic, punta ka sa Catholic Church because the church can help. And that's true. That's true. And at least you won't get the question because it's part of the teachings. Tinuturo siya. It's out there. It's openly out there. Hindi siya nililihim ng Vatican, etc. And at the same time, again, sabi ko nga, for us Hindus, we have a different process. And it's true. May ano yan, meron talagang ritual for that. May actual ritual for that. And honestly, what matters is you believe in it. Kasi you can't also just go through with this without thinking na totoo kaya. Or again, Logically speaking, you cannot manifest something that you don't trust you can have. Okay? Or you don't believe can happen or manifest, diba? So you have to believe muna. You can also say na I'm gonna be healed without really trusting or without the faith and the trust that you will be healed. You can't manifest anything na hindi mo pinaniniwalaan in general. Hindi mo pwedeng masabi na mapopromote ako na hindi mo pinagkakatiwalaan, kaya mo ma-promote, no, 'di ba? So yung mga ganyang bagay. So remember, no matter what resonates, no matter what belief system, you follow the steps there so that it would resonate, so that it would also be okay for you to go through it. Na maniniwala ka na it will happen because miracles do happen. Hindi naman pwedeng mangyayari yung mga ganyang bagay without any resolution. There's still a way. There's still a way and there's a process to do that. So, at the same time, na yung recommendation ko is to really make sure na one way or another, and that's the reason why we have to pray. Sometimes we think, when we pray, may nangyayari ba? Of course, meron. Hindi lang, again, natin mararamdaman because only for people who are able to detect those subtle energies, sila lang ang makaka-detect. But you'll be surprised that every moment that you pray a structured prayer according to dogma or according to your own religion, may nangyayari sa energy ng tao. May nangyayari sa energy ng tao. It really, hindi lang natin mararamdaman completely, like parang, wow, it's not that animated. Okay? But again, remember, because these are subtle vibrations. Subtle vibrations that it takes a lot of consciousness and awareness for you to detect it, for you to sense it. And that's why, again, it's also a skill that you can hone. It's a skill that one can discover. It's, again, not just unique and just authentic to a certain number of people. May mga natural, pero natututunan, just like what I did. Natutunan ko na lang din eventually. So aside from you becoming very much developing your strongest relationship with God, if you are, paano naman yung mga someone na mga not practicing, okay? So not necessarily, and sometimes, again, remember, our religion is mostly designated to us at the time of our birth. This is not something that we choose. This is rewarded and designated to us, okay, by our parents. And that's why naman that when you are legal of age, that's the time that when you already are allowed to discover and rediscover with the vastness of this universe. And then that's a perfect opportunity for you to really rediscover something that would resonate for you, and which also happened to me. Believe it or not, I'm very firm. I've always been very firm na even if I am open to discovering other ways that I can discover God. And before ako naging Hindu, I go to church, I go to Victory, I go to CCF. Those are two of my favorites. CCF and Victory. Pupunta ako doon. But if it's also gonna be the time for conversion, I'd always say no. I'd politely decline. And that pag may ganun na, pag nandun na ako sa part na pinapa-convert na ako, hindi na ako magpapakita. Kasi nga, parang for me, I just want to be in a place that would, if I want to praise God, if I want to sing for God, I would just do it without judgment or without any pressure or commitment na I would, kumbaga, when in Rome, do what the Romans do. Parang for me, okay na yung parang I'm just here to worship. But because I'm not comfortable, lagi ko sinasabi, I'm not gonna shift. I'm okay na dun sa ano. I may believe on something. Pwede ako mag-anong ganyan, pero to go to the whole stretch of conversion, hindi na. I won't bother. So for those who may not, either you have a religion but you choose to not to practice, or if you're also not literally talagang of no religion, because there are also countries that really don't have religion. I'm surprised that Korea is one of them, because in school before, meron ako mga classmates na Korean in school. And of course, we're a Catholic school. Sa Binilde, may theology classes. Every year, may theology classes. It's like in Lasal, every year, you have a theology class. And so meron akong theology na class. And yung mga classmates kong Korean, when pag tinatanong sila ng mga ng mga ng mga brothers in class, in a theology class, and they're puzzled about what religion is because they didn't have religion. Okay. Korea is mostly agnostic talaga po sa kanila. Yeah, yun nga. And I was also surprised during that time. I was thinking baka some way merong form of And but in fact, there are some population in Korea that Christianity is also a form of status symbol. Kumbaga, if you have a religion, kumbaga, it's also a form of status symbol. Kasi nga, most of them, just like how Yuli mentioned, di ba nga, most are agnostic. Ayun. And so, um, going back, if you're someone who happens to be not practicing or doesn't have a very structured religion, again, logically speaking, scientifically speaking, the thoughts that we process and the emotions that come after that is the factor. Okay, so the more we stay grounded, no matter what experiences we all have to go through, no matter what emotional or mental na life experience that would require exhaustion on both our mind and heart, mindfulness will also save us. Halimbawa, sabi ko nga, for people who have if they're well balanced, they can literally turn it on and turn it off after. Okay, kumbaga okay, I'm just gonna process this, I'm gonna take it all in, and later I'm good. Okay, and then later na yan, or bukas na uli. Because it literally, again, sabi ko nga, everything is energy, and the least thing you would want to do is send out radio waves and frequencies that would ask or call out these energies and invite them because you're going through something. Because again, those energies, they feed on that energy. Basically, they feed on that energy, they enjoy and bask in that energy, so they will just magnify and intensify it. That's why another common na possible na na telltale sign is when a person goes through depression nga. Okay? At saka 'di ba kaya anong commonly sinasabi ng mga ganyan, even jokingly, pero malaman 'yon, yung sabi, "Mababaliw na yata ako. I'm hearing things." Yung mga tipong, and what do you think motivates those people who tend to be in their most very vulnerable state, try to end their life because in one way or another, or suicide attempts, they would always say one way or another, parang, "I heard a voice and I just followed it." Okay? So again, remember that free will is not something that can be tampered on by anything or anyone, not even the devil itself or God itself. But remember, us, we can all be influenced. We can all be influenced. And so remember, if you're someone going through these things, remember that there's always a way. There's always a way for us to keep our feet on the ground, to keep ourselves grounded, and there are professional help that can really help you in these situations, but you have to seek help. If you are very spiritual, of course, there are spiritual practices that can help you with. Nako. Oh, sige na nga. Ihahabol ko pa nga 'to. Ay, kaya lang wala na tayong time. Yeah, sayang naman. Meron pa sana may habol pa sanang entry yung yung kasi may line up nga kami niyan. We gave this good thought dun sa structure. Meron akong cheat sheet yung program ko nandiyan kaya pinareno ko, ito na. Si baby na mo, ito na, ito na, ito na. Yun yung nakikita kasi yung time, okay? Kasi nagme-meditate siya. Okay, but yun nga. So, we don't have much time left. We're only left with 2 minutes. But to end our session, our meaningful session for tonight, these things are also meant to happen, not for us and for people who are directly affected by these situations or the stories. Even the real life people in my stories earlier, it didn't happen just because God finds it amusing for someone, any of God's creations, for God to feel happy that there's torture. Okay, hindi, that's not God. Okay, that's not how God is. But remember, everything that happens, may it be directly on us or other people's life experiences, is a way for us to discover wisdom. To discover through wisdom, remember what the guru is about, remover of darkness. Once light is received through wisdom, we get to discover more. We get to also discover and to grow more love on this. Through wisdom, we will get to also honor, respect. In these situations, baka yun lang ang kulang, to also respect that we all coexist together. Because hindi naman yun bias, hindi naman pwedeng, when I say demonic entities lang yung mga nandyan, that wala, of course, there are also angels around us. And that's also true. Because again, the universe is fair and balanced. It's never biased. So I would want us to close this session by trusting that no matter what you believe in, most especially your religion, take this episode as an inspiration and motivation to strengthen your faith in God, no matter how you get to discover its name. It can be in any form, but so long as you know that there's this one true supreme being above us all, that's actually the real lesson here, because all it takes is for us to trust that power, and it shall always protect us in anything and in everything. I hope you do enjoy, and you enjoyed rather our session for tonight. I want to say thank you to everybody na nagstay all throughout, hearing our stories. And if you do like yung ito session natin, of course, sabi ko nga marami akong baon yan, but of course, leave your comments here in our comment section later on. I will read them. If you have other stories na pwede nyo ihabol dahil gusto nyo lang makinig ng makinig sa akin, you can even send it over sa ating Facebook page, Everyday Reiki with Marky, and I'll make sure to attend to those messages later on. But for now, thank you so much again for spending a happy, well, at tapos na yung Halloween natin, All Souls Day na. Pero thank you so much for joining us. And I do hope you learned something in our session for tonight. This has been Marky Mendoza. Keep trusting the process, everybody. Oh, by the way, manood kayo ng Weekly Tower Reading, ha? Napaka-grabe ng session. Itong week na to, ha? Sobrang grabe ang energies natin. So stay guided, panoorin yung Weekly Tarot Reading natin, okay? Ay, oh my gosh, may nanonood sa atin from London. Hi, Eva, I see you all the way from London. Napaka ng global ng audience natin, ha? Good evening sa inyo. Oh, ikaw, good afternoon sa iyo sa London, and good afternoon din sa nasa Sweden. Good night yung nasa Singapore kay Mary Sizay. Namaskaram, everybody. I will see you all soon. Good night. Thank you po.